Good morning. That was such beautiful music. I didn't even want it to end. I think at the end of it, I'll request for one song, the previous one that they sang. It was so beautiful. I felt blessed. Now today, I'll be taking you through the M word, menopause. That word that elicits a lot of reactions globally, and I'm sure even in this room. The ones who are my age and the ones who are my age or above, and don't ask what my age is. The ones who are my age or above will probably be listening very keenly because it affects us, or it's probably going to affect you in the very near future. The younger ones in the room will probably be thinking, oh well, why am I listening? It has nothing to do with me. And then the men in the room will probably even roll their eyes and wonder, why am I listening to this issue? It has nothing to do with me. But bear with me. I'm sure at the end of this, we will all be on the same page. My name is Dr. Oyaro, Irene, Mokeira. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist practicing in Nairobi. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you to Zipporah on behalf of the church for inviting me here today to share a few nuggets of wisdom. So we shall be discussing posing with God, women posing with God. That's how I prefer to look at menopause. And my beginning, the word I'd like to begin with is from Philippians 1:6. To the women who are already going through the menopausal transition, to the ones who are behind us, to the ones who are ahead of us, when you're thinking that, Lord, I have gotten to the end of this journey of life, the word says, be patient. God is not finished with you yet. Okay. So what is menopause? As doctors, we describe it like this. It's a retrograde sort of diagnosis, meaning hindsight. When you've gone through at least 12 months consecutively without any menses, and you're of the appropriate age, above 40 that is, then we look back and say, you've gone through menopause, okay? Now there's a rider to that. I say the appropriate age, but there is a group of women a small percentage of women who will go through menopause before the age of 40, what we call premature menopause. It's a small group of women. I'll tackle that later, okay? As I mentioned, it's a diagnosis made in hindsight. Then the perimenopause period is essentially a couple of years. It tends to last about 4 or 5 years maximum, even as it's a transition of the body towards menopause. And then post-menopause is now when you've got into menopause, your life after that is menopause, okay? Now, menopause can either be spontaneous, which is basically what most women will go through. I can assure you, unless the good Lord calls you way too early, all of us as women will have to go through menopause, either spontaneously or because it's been induced. And I'll explain that later. The average age of spontaneous menopause is usually 45 to 55 years globally, with a mean of about 51 years for most countries. But as I mentioned, premature menopause is for the women who get it before the age of 40. So what are the factors that get to influence when you and I will go through menopause? First of all, genetically speaking, the good Lord has already assigned a day for you when you will get your last period, okay? So that you have no control over. It's really an assigned date for you. But there are certain factors that may hasten or may prolong the time that you're in the reproductive age. One, your family history. So if your aunties got menopause around age 42, 45, chances are you're also going to get it around that time, okay? If you come from a family history where they all go all the way up to age 50-something, chances are you're also going to go that far. But there are certain modifiable factors that tend to affect when you'll get menopause. So lifestyle issues like the type of diet you're eating, low body fat. So women who are on the heavier set might experience menopause much later than the leaner ones. And this is really just because the extra fat in your body is going to be converted somewhat into estrogen, which is the hormone that keeps giving you menses every month. So you can appreciate why the leaner ones might get menopause earlier, okay? Then cigarette smoking. Let's just lay this rule once and for all. There is no medical benefit to cigarette smoking. Whether you look at it from the Christian aspect, the scientific aspect, cultural aspect, it offers no benefit. And specifically so to reproductive health in women. It carries a myriad of disadvantages to a woman, including fertility, including how long you will stay in the reproductive age, and in terms of even when you will get your last menses. Malnutrition again, and here I'm talking about both undernutrition and overnutrition will affect this as well. And ethnicity. Blacks tend to stay longer before we get our menses to stop compared to other communities. Now, for the women who experience premature menopause, that is before the age of 40, there are certain things that might increase your risk of this happening. Certain genetic disorders, but this is usually very rare, but certain genetic disorders can actually cause this. Tuberculosis, it can affect your ovaries and they stop functioning, they stop releasing estrogen way too early. Smoking, as I mentioned, can also cause premature menopause. Then we have the category for medically induced menopause. A very important category because now that means it's we, the doctors, who've done that to you. Either we surgically removed your ovaries for one reason or the other. Removed both ovaries, that is. Removing one does not cause menopause. And removing the uterus and sparing your ovaries does not put you in menopause either. As much as you're not getting your menses, the ovaries are still functioning and all the functions of estrogen are still going on. So in essence, you're still not in menopause for such women. Then medically induced other ways include things like chemotherapy or radiotherapy. Again, this can affect the function of your ovaries. Autoimmune diseases. We're seeing an upsurge of autoimmune diseases in our society nowadays. I don't know whether it's because of our diet, because of our lifestyle, but we're seeing a lot of this currently in our young women. So things like Addison's disease, autoimmune thyroiditis, that is an autoimmune. Autoimmune basically means your own immunity attacking you. Your immunity should be dealing with diseases, infections. But when now it's attacking you, your healthy tissues, then it brings a problem. So when it attacks the thyroid, then your thyroid begins to misbehave. And your thyroid has a way of controlling your periods. So sometimes this can lead to premature menopause. Family history, again, there are families that just have a history of premature menopause with no obvious underlying cause. And then there are women who, for no unknown reason, they just get a shutdown of their ovaries, what you call primary ovarian insufficiency. So in essence, the 4 stages that are projected, there are the stages that every woman goes through in terms of reproductive life. You start when you're nice and young and vibrant and everything going well for you, pre-menopause, from the time you start your periods, that's menarche, as you go along with your life. Then things start to change. For most women from the late 30s to early 40s, they enter a period we call perimenopause. This is when, as a woman, you start noticing, my cycle has changed. I used to get a 30, 35-day cycle, 28-day cycle. Suddenly, it's becoming shorter. I'm now having 26, 24, 21. Then you know something is happening, okay? Then as you transition even further into your 40s, sometimes by the time you're getting to mid-40s, you realize, hata wakati mwingine inaruka. Sometimes I miss the period. Or sometimes in some women, it lengthens. You're probably waiting for your period for 2-3 weeks later, and it's not coming. It keeps coming later. So that can happen, a change in the cycle of your menses. That's a first sign that the biological clock is beginning to tick, all right? And then with time, as you're getting closer and closer to your last period, you start seeing other physiological symptoms. And they literally affect you from head to toe. From your head, you start noticing, my hair is beginning to thin. This is the time you start seeing women walking around with fancy wigs. You do not want to show people, kihara imeanzia huku. Huh? Okay? So you start having thinning of hair, not just the head, even your eyebrows. You'll notice, suddenly, the outer part of your eyebrows, there's hardly any hair. Okay, I can see people looking at each other. Don't worry. Okay? Now, the irony of it is, while you're losing hair here and your eyes and the nether regions, somehow some women begin to get hairs over here. Because now you're having an imbalance between estrogen, which ideally should be released by your ovaries. There's an imbalance of estrogen with the male hormones, because we all have both estrogen and what we call androgens. It's just about the balance. So now when your androgens are more than the estrogen, you start behaving like a man. You start getting a few strands of hair. Your voice might start to deepen a bit. And as someone once told me in the clinic, she said, "Ni kama tuko wanaume wawili kwa nyumba sasa." Okay? So you start noticing these changes. Your skin starts to lose its elasticity. Once you had nice, supple skin, now you literally are living on moisturizers to keep yourself up to date. All right? Even as you go down to your heart, your heart starts experiencing certain changes. So all these changes all these things are happening all over your body, okay? Up until the point where now you start feeling hot flashes. You're going about your business and suddenly, whoosh, you're not sure what's happening. It's like there's heat being generated from your body from inside. And you cannot explain it. And unless you're prepared and know that this is what to expect at a certain age. We've had patients who are rushed to hospital in a panic state. They're not sure what's going on. They're having these sweats they cannot explain. The sudden hot flashes they can't explain. Most of the time it's preceded by a headache. And they feel their heart is beating so fast. And someone is very sure they're getting a heart attack. Just for me to tell them, imagine hapana, it's menopause knocking. Okay? So unless you're well prepared, you will find yourself panicking through this stage. All right? And then finally you get your last period. You will not know it's your last period until you get to around 12 months. You've not had menses. Then we look back and say, it was menopause setting in. Okay? So that's menopause. Then stage 4 is now post-menopause, your life after that. And it doesn't get any easier. Suddenly, it's affecting every part of your body. The most important part, which usually brings the women to hospital, they come and tell you, nowadays I have to decide whether to laugh at my grandchildren's jokes. Because I laugh, I leak. Wenye wanajua wameelewa. I laugh, I leak. You leak a bit of urine. It might happen. It doesn't happen to everyone, okay? The problem is, it doesn't necessarily mean you have a fistula, because I get women rushing to hospital and they think, Daktari, I think I have fistula. Not necessarily the case. It's just that the estrogen levels have gone down. Estrogen is very important for the integrity of the muscles in your pelvic region. And it holds everything together. So suddenly, things have become a bit weak. And that's why when you cough, when you laugh, when you sneeze, suddenly something might leak out. If it gets to a point where it's too troublesome, then we need to assist you and teach you certain muscles, certain exercises to strengthen your muscles. Another common thing in the urinary system, in the urogenital system, is that some women say, I can feel a heaviness down there. I can feel something is not right. When I cough, I feel like there's some pressure. And you check, and they have what you call pelvic organ prolapse. Either the uterus or the wall of the bladder or the rectum prolapsing a bit. It's an unfortunate case, but it's not something to be too worried about, because it can actually be corrected. And that again is just because the estrogen levels have gone down, the area has become weak. And so when you laugh, when you cough, when you lift heavy objects, you're putting a lot of pressure down there, and then things just prolapse, okay? Now, the sad thing is this period in your life is coinciding with a woman who has already had 3, 4, 5 children. So you're having multiple factors to make that area weak. And if you come from the part of Kenya where I come from, the bigger the babies you gave birth to, the more prestige you have in the community. So you have 4 kg babies, 5 kg babies, 3.9 kg babies, and suddenly this area is weak because you've had multiple births, you've had babies who are big, and now you also have estrogen deficiency. So multiple factors coming in. So not to scare you, but these are some of the things that women might go through. Not all women will be affected in the same way. There's some women, the only thing they'll experience is just a bit of hot flashes, a bit of night sweats here and there, and that's it. While for other women, it's a total nightmare. So it is important that you open up to your doctor. Please seek medical advice, and there are ways to assist you to transition easily through this period. So we diagnose menopause usually clinically. We don't usually need to do any investigations. It's really what the woman reports, and I'm able to pick, this one is going through menopause. But there are instances where we might have to do certain investigations, okay? Where, for example, it's happening way too early in your life. Then we need to do certain investigations to see, are you going through menopause? Is it a thyroid disease or what's going on? And there are other supporting tests that we might do depending on what you present with, that help us to know how severe the situation is in terms of your bone health, because menopause actually, again, because of low estrogen levels, will affect your bones. They become a bit soft, a bit brittle. You can end up getting issues with like fractures very easily. So sometimes we need to do extra tests to see what's going on. How do we manage it? In the past, you'd be surprised the kind of management women used to get. Anything from offering them opium to offering them bangi, just to relieve their symptoms, because it was believed that it was more of a psychological issue, a bit of what they call hysteria. But currently, we know that there are ways to help these women without going overboard and giving them such management. But the first step really, what you can do that will benefit you before you even get to the doctor, is your lifestyle. And lifestyle does not mean when you get to menopause is when you change your lifestyle to become healthy. It's actually right from the time you're young. So even the young ladies in this room, please, 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 your wealth, your health is your wealth, okay? If you have a healthy lifestyle from the time you're young, I assure you even the transition to menopause is going to be much easier than people who've had an unhealthy lifestyle. So your diet, we know that a high animal diet is very inflammatory, and this might make it worse for you, okay? So when you're transitioning to menopause, we usually encourage reduce on dairy products, reduce on animal products, do more of plant protein. It is less inflammatory. It is less toxic to your body, okay? Healthy living, exercise daily. This is very important. It helps to elevate your mood. It helps to clear the stress and depression that sometimes comes with menopause. Avoid habit-forming substances like alcohol and cigarettes and bangi and all the likes. Okay? Then if this is not working, there is a group of women who we now want to manage medically, where we can give them either hormone replacement therapy or what you call alternative medicine. And there's lots of them in the market, which I will not go through today. But to leave you with just another nugget of wisdom for women and even for their partners, please realize that just the fact that you're ending this phase of your journey as a reproductively fertile woman does not mean it's the end of everything. It's very distressing for women because they realize that they're losing their outer beauty, quote unquote. The skin is beginning to sag, the skin begins to look dry, hair is falling off. This is what I will say about that. Charm is deceptive, beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. So it's more of what is on the inside, okay? The other thing, now this is to the husbands. It is your duty to love your wives and to cherish them. When they are young and hot, when they are hot because of flashes, it is still your duty to love and cherish them. But to the woman, realize that your husband does not read minds. He's not a mind reader. You need to communicate to your husband, this is what I'm going through, and this is how you can support me through our life together. And that will be it for me. Those are I think they projected my contacts in case of any question. Thank you.